Hello, everyone, and welcome to Illuminate Universe's podcast, The Cast. My name is Netanya Castillo, and I'm a program coordinator here at Illuminate. In this podcast, I interviewed Raaj Chatterjee, the CEO and founder of MeaningfulWork. Raj shares a lot about the steps needed to scale a business. What started out as a mission to connect volunteers with nonprofits, an Excel spreadsheet, a contact list, and a few friends has now become the international meaningful work we know today. Partnered with over 200 nonprofits across 5 continents, Raj will show you how you can take one small crazy idea and turn it into a business that could impact thousands. Hi, Raj. Thank you for joining us here today. Could you tell us a bit more about yourself as the CEO of Meaningful Work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can share a bit about my story. First of all, thanks for having me here. It's been a really interesting journey for me, going all the way from starting a degree in engineering and learning more about social impact and eventually starting a business. You can think about it as us as a connector. So we help companies really help solve the problems of retention and engagement in the modern workplace, and especially that we're all hybrid and remote. It's really hard to connect with your colleagues and also feel that your company is actually fully supporting you, even because you don't have that direct link of going into work. And so we really help companies with just that team building aspect through volunteering. And for nonprofits, we help them to identify a few places in their org where skilled volunteers could be like the right solution. It's definitely not the solution for everything, and it's not meant to replace any permanent jobs in the industry, but just a few places where that spark or that connection can create some value. So yeah, we have services for both companies and for nonprofits. We also have some great workshops that we can deliver for our clients as well that have gone really good, including like hackathons and different design activities to help overcome different nonprofit challenges. So yeah, we're still really brainstorming and figuring out like what does a really great volunteer program look like at a company, and what does it look like to help nonprofits actually grow capacity and be able to multiply their impact. Started in 2020, just before the pandemic hit, actually. And then, things did change quite a bit over the pandemic. And that's how we've been really trying to build out the product since then, and also build a lot of connections. So we have over 250 nonprofits on the platform today, and we're continuing to grow in terms of getting more businesses on board as well. So it's an exciting time to definitely be a startup founder. And I think it's important that, your work is really an expression of your purpose. And that's really why I love entrepreneurship.
Wow, that's really interesting. So, would you say that you took an unconventional or a unique path to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think so. But I think that's the kind of beauty of entrepreneurship, is that there's no really a set path that you have to take or have to come into from. So yeah, I think a lot of founders don't necessarily come from going to business school, and they really find a problem that they want to solve, and they have the creative thinking skills to come up with a solution and build a business. So yeah, I guess it could be considered unconventional, but at the same time, I think it's totally possible.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of leads me into my next question, actually. So, from your perspective, could you list maybe some characteristics or essential skills for somebody aspiring to go into the same field as you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think social innovation is super broad. Like there's definitely the nonprofit path that you can take. I could go into also the entrepreneurial path, and it's just more so like a for-profit. You could start a cooperative. Like there's so many different pathways, but I think they do have a lot in common in terms of the skill set required. So I think there's a lot of solutions out there that try to address the problem, but they're not addressing it in the best way. And I think that critical thinking and being able to think in terms of, okay, what is the broader system here? Who are the people that really need help? If I develop a solution, am I actually helping the problem, or am I harming people that I'm working with? So there's a whole kind of aspect of that called design justice, which is a really interesting organization and concept that focuses on, okay, how can we make sure that our designs are actually going to benefit people that we want to help? So there's that aspect of it, just the critical thinking and really thinking it from a systems perspective, the empathy and compassion, and then also I think just the resilience piece. So it's really hard to sometimes go out and start your own organization or work for another organization, because historically there's not been as many resources for the nonprofit or the social service sector, and so it can be really difficult getting your organization started, and it can be many years because you're tackling such really difficult problems that, if they were easy to solve, they would have been solved by now, right? So it takes a lot of resilience, and I think it takes a lot of self-love and compassion as well, as you're tackling these really hard problems externally, not to feel down if they don't work in 1 year or even 2 years. So these are some of the really, I think, essential tips or essential attributes someone who's going into social innovation would want to have. But I think there's also a lot more, and I think people can bring their skills to the challenge, and everyone has a unique skill set that will really be required if you want to solve these problems together.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I think it's so vital, to have those characteristics like resiliency and empathy. Do you have any characteristics, maybe like hard skills, like organization, that you think somebody in your position must have?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a leadership sort of position, definitely there's the organization piece and accountability. So that's like super important. If you're starting your own business, you'll need to know a bit about, you don't have to be an expert in everything, but you do need to know a bit about like finance, accounting, a bit about sales and marketing, a little bit about how to organize projects and project management, as well as a bit about technologies often. So this could be either design and development. So I mean, that's a lot, but I think if you're wanting to start an organization, it's good to have a bit of general knowledge so that you can know which direction your organization is heading and have the right people on board who might specialize more so in some of those areas. But you do need, I think everyone with any skill set can be a part of a social innovation organization. It just takes the right kind of alignment towards those skills applied to the problem that you're trying to solve.
Do you have any personal advice for somebody who's trying to get to where you are?
Yeah, personal advice, I think there's a lot. I think it's really important to dive deep into the problem that you're trying to solve, and really fall in love with that problem, because there's many ways to go at entrepreneurship. So if you come up with a solution and you really enjoy it, and you think that's the way forward, I think it's possible to miss the boat on some of the more pressing issues that may go overlooked. So I think really identifying the problem you're trying to solve, identifying the people that you're trying to help, and really talking to them and understanding what their problems are will really help. I'll go a long ways in terms of like defining the solution and the execution path that you take, and the strategy as well. Yeah, I think it's just advice that I would have, I guess, for my past self, is just to talk to more people. Share, don't be scared to share your story, even if you think that you're not as far along as you would like to be. I think it's really important to be transparent and accept where you are right now, because that's how you will be able to get the most help and able to grow as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, you have a big emphasis on connections, and kind of networking, getting to know people outside of your comfort zone. So, would you say that's absolutely crucial for somebody to attain their dream job in the nonprofit sector?
I would say so. Yeah, I think it's so important to dive into some of the connection networks that already exist, and meaningful work is an example of a network that we're trying to create, that where it's easy to find these kind of connections. But there are other networks out there as well, and I think LinkedIn is a great place to start. And also just attending events. Like, there's a lot more in-person events these days where it's a lot easier just to find someone to talk to, and get plugged into other people's networks as well. So I think just yeah, knowing what some of your goals are, and when you're talking to someone, like, think about how you could help them and how they could help you potentially. Yeah, also just invest in relationships, right? It's not always a transactional thing that you'd want to build when you're trying to build relationships. It's sometimes just getting to know people, and what they're about, and connecting with them in not just the transactional way.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And could you tell me maybe about a time, say you were humbled, since you're a business leader, you were humbled, or say you ran into a conflict that kind of overwhelmed you, and what did you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. It's like every day. It's usually there's something. It's challenging, right? Like, you face a lot of rejection when you're doing sales. Maybe if they don't like your product, or maybe it's like not right now. I think you're always humbled whenever you're applying to competition. So I think as a founder, you need to recognize that you're going to get a lot of no's before you get a yes, but that yes will be able to outweigh all the no's that you received in the past. So I think just remembering that really helps me a lot. Just get through some of that rejection, and just recognizing that maybe you're not best fit for this person. So you can identify, do we want to change our business strategy to be more aligned with some of these needs, or are we not focusing on the right sort of customer for our business? So I think just treating every rejection as a learning opportunity is important, and not to overemphasize certain viewpoints, because I think it's important to get a good sample of advice before actually acting on maybe just a few thoughts that haven't been fully developed yet.
People in high school, they don't often consider going into the nonprofit sector because maybe they don't know that much about it. So if you were
Mhm.
to speak to a class of 12th graders and maybe open their minds to this industry, what would you say to persuade them?
Right, that's a great question. I think for high school students, like nonprofit sector, I think high school students are generally exposed to the nonprofit world, especially due to volunteer hours that they might have to complete for graduation. So I think really taking advantage of those hours are really important, because it's not just a box that you need to take off, but it could be a really great opportunity to discover something that you really care about in your community. So whether that's like seniors or youth or environment or social sort of mobility and education, like there's so many really cool impact areas out there. So I think my advice would be just to take advantage of those volunteer hours and try to find an organization that you really care about. And I think a lot of what I've been trying to build at Meaningful Work is to make that part easy, because it's actually really hard. It's hard to find. There's so many organizations out there, hard to find that opportunity that will speak to you. And part of that mission at Meaningful Work has been trying to be that matchmaker in some ways and helping people find those opportunities. I guess my advice would just be to I think like there's a lot more integration in the future between the for-profit world and not-for-profit world. And it'll at some point the lines will be a bit more blurred in terms of, okay, maybe there's not going to be a distinction between for-profit and nonprofit, but more of a purpose-led economy where there's different organizations, they have their own social purpose, and these could be a for-profit or nonprofit organization, and they're all kind of working together to make the world a better place. So I would not maybe discount the nonprofit world, because it is actually going through a deeper integration with the business world. And I think that is an opportunity that, as high school students, it's a great to be aware of, and think about how social impact and really important trends like diversity, equity, inclusion, sustainability are going to be a really big part of the workplace in ways that they haven't been in the past. And it's really an opportunity to get ahead of the curve and learn about those issues, because I think it'll affect every part of working life, no matter if you're in the nonprofit world or the for profit world as well.
Well, Raj, it was a pleasure to interview you and have this conversation about what you're doing at Meaningful Work. And we just want to thank you for taking this time to speak to our audience and inspire them into the nonprofit sector.
Awesome. Thank you. Really enjoyed the conversation, and yeah, would love to connect with any of your listeners. You can find me on LinkedIn, and would love to learn more about other people's journeys in volunteering and how that work has helped them to find their purpose.